Good evening, Kelly. It's Monday. So today I thought I would talk a little bit about Harry Potter. The thing about Harry Potter is I can't say that it changed my life in the same way that, say, Lord of the Rings did. I was really big into Lord of the Rings fandom. I read fanfic, I roleplayed, I had friends, I contributed really crappy essays to this website. But the thing is that Harry Potter changed my life in a way that I don't think Lord of the Rings could have, because I don't know that I would have read Lord of the Rings if it hadn't been for Harry Potter. My parents are extremely religious and extremely conservative, so when I was growing up, we weren't allowed to partake in a lot of fantasy. The first fantasy book I ever read that was not the Chronicles of Narnia was Alana, the First Adventure by Tamara Pierce. Granted, this did come before I read Harry Potter, but the thing was that I loved the characters. I loved how they were developed, and I thought that that's what I enjoyed, because, to be honest, I felt a little guilty about enjoying the rest of it because of, well, all the magic and the parts that my parents would not have approved of. So I didn't really search out any more fantasy. I just wanted to read more about Tortall. And then I found Harry Potter. We were not allowed to read those books, and we were not allowed to see the movies when the movies started coming out. Because, well, they were magic, and magic was evil. Unless, of course, it's by Aslan. But at some point, my sister and I ended up in our next-door neighbor's house, and I got hold of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And they had a daughter my age, and they had a son my sister's age, and my sister and their son were best friends. So we were over at their house kind of a lot. And what happened was, I started reading while I was there. I sat on their living room couch and I read Harry Potter. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal, especially when you consider that I wasn't that connected to the characters and I wasn't really into the fandom. So why in the world would reading these books change my life? But see, the thing is that this world that she had created around these characters was fascinating to me. And for reasons that I didn't understand at the time, I didn't feel that guilt that came associated with the Alana books. Looking back, I'm pretty sure that the guilt stemmed from the fact that in the Alana books, the deities are actually pretty important, and they are the ones that convey magic upon people, etc., whereas in the Harry Potter books, religion isn't even a thing. So I was reading these books and saying, hey, this is fantasy. I actually really enjoy this. And so I decided that I wanted to pick up more fantasy and see if I liked that. And the first fantasy that I picked up was Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was acceptable because J.R.R. Tolkien was a staunch Catholic and also a really good friend of C.S. Lewis. And it wasn't too long after I finished reading Lord of the Rings that the films came out. And so I was just enamored by this world and this story. I loved the fandom. I was all over the place. It was great. And I met a lot of people in that fandom who really changed my life for various reasons, mostly just by being themselves and proving that you can be a good person without being a Christian. My breaking away from my parents' philosophy and religion really kick-started when I was 18 and I went to go see the musical Rent. But I wouldn't have gone to see Rent in the first place if I hadn't had friends that I'd made at NaNoWriMo, which I wouldn't have gotten into if I hadn't heard of it from a friend who I met through Lord of the Rings fandom, which I wouldn't have gotten into if I hadn't read Harry Potter in the first place. So basically, Jo Rowling changed my life. She's a person who indirectly led me to finding myself. She's a person who indirectly led me to finding out that I didn't believe the same things that my parents did, and I didn't agree with them on a lot of things. Harry Potter was also the first book series that I really enjoyed, not for the characters, but for the world. I can enjoy all sorts of things these days without even really liking the characters all that much because I love the universe that they're set in and I love the premise. I think it's part of what helps me overlook flaws in characters in writing that a lot of people can't get past. So yeah, that's basically it. Harry Potter changed my life. If it weren't for Harry Potter, I wouldn't have come out. I wouldn't have met my wife. I would probably be married with a kid by now to some good Christian boy, and I would be miserable. So, thanks, Jo Rowling. I owe you one. I'm most likely not going to do a video tomorrow. I have the day off, and I've got a lot of plans of stuff that I need to do, and I don't particularly feel like making one at home. So, everybody, don't forget to be awesome. Kelly, I will see you on Wednesday.